Yeah, another Racer X Exhaust podcast. I'm Jason Weigandt coming your way. We had breaking news on the podcast we had yesterday with Shane McElrath. We then found out that Lucas Oil Pro Motocross has been delayed. It was supposed to start in July. Well, honestly, it was supposed to start in May, right? Then it was delayed till June, then July, now potentially August. That has not gone over well with people who want to see racing. And I'll just tell you my perspective on this. I've been honest about it from the start. A significant part of my income for the year supporting my family comes from television broadcast of motorcycle races. So when the Nationals get postponed, Flat Track gets postponed, let's see, I do a bunch of one-off races for Red Bull that I don't even know if they're going to happen at all. When that happens, that affects my pocketbook big time, and I like racing. There is no better feeling to me than being at the racetrack. So obviously, you know where I'm coming from. I don't know where you're coming from. You want these races to happen. It has not gone over well that the races are not happening. Now, I don't get a ton of inside information on the MX Sports properties. I know that it's the same company as Racer X. It's owned by the Coombs family, just like Racer X is, and it all operates out of the same office. But I am running this RacerXOnline.com website. That is all I've got time for. I can't sit in on 2-3 hour Zoom phone call meetings with those folks. So every once in a while I check in, because obviously it's of my interest to know. So after this announcement, I was talking to Davey today. There's a lot more specific reasons than they named in a press release yesterday that was kind of vague, as press releases are. So after a while, I just said, why don't we actually talk about it and record it so everyone could know that there are real reasons for this. I want to go racing, damn the torpedoes, go for it. But as we've learned with this COVID thing, no one person's opinion really matters. Although we all have opinions, there are state governments involved, and then when you get to racing, the teams themselves certainly have a stake and a voice and a vote. So it's a very complicated situation. We'll explain those complications at Davey in a minute. Shout out to Yoshimura, our title sponsor for this. Go to yoshimura-rd.com. for all the information on exhaust systems that you want and you need for your motorcycle, ATV, side-by-side, street bike, whatever it might be. Also, check out Evil Coffee. Yeah, they're on board with the podcast now. Grind beans, not gears. Premium oil keeps your engine running smooth. Keep your mornings running smooth. Go to evilcoffeecompany.com. We did talk about this a few months ago. They're on board, and they have a cool idea with a subscription. So here's how it works. You hit subscribe at evilcoffeecompany.com, and you'll be prompted to pick the roast you like, and then your preferred bean style. You can mix and match, make different combinations, and then they'll ship it to your doorstep monthly. You can get 4 bags in your subscription, or let them know if you need even more of that. Coffee never really goes bad per se, but the fresher it is, the better it is. So this is a cool way to have good coffee, fresh, on hand all the time, and you'll never run out. Go to evilcoffeecompany.com for more on that. And yes, they have the Deadline blend based on our stuff right here. It's the Racer X Deadline blend, and a couple other cool unique blends based around the sport as well. Parade Lap, Idle Speed, and one called Whiskey Throttle. That's a motocross term, right? Our guy Ping. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let's get to Davey. Oh, wait, no, I got other sponsors I got to throw in there. Sorry, Psychic MX, full range motocross brand, engine internals, everything from your everyday wear and tear parts to your weekend warriors to your full-on race guys. They have everything you need. Go to psychicmx.com. That's PSYCHIC MX.com. Visit your local dealer today. And also MX Tech Suspension, manufacturing professional aftermarket suspension for riders who want excellent comfort and control. Their quality engineering is based on a lifetime of specializing in dirt bike suspension. They have developed a Lucky Fork featuring dual springs, dual cartridges, Huck valves, and it's ultra lightweight. And MX Tech utilizes the latest in technology and coatings to deliver max performance while remaining lightweight. Go to mx-tech.com for more. So we got Yoshimura, we got Evil Coffee, we got Psychic MX, and of course Racer X, and now we have Davey Coombs. So news came out yesterday, Davey, not news that even I personally want to hear, and you probably not either. Series is delayed again. We went from May to June to July. Now it said maybe August. I'm assuming that this is not a decision that you guys just make. There's probably a lot behind the scenes that goes into this.
There's obviously
Yeah.
a lot that goes into a decision like this. No one wants to delay or postpone any more than we have to. But given the circumstances of what's going on around the country, specifically in California, in Florida, in Texas, where a lot of our athletes and race teams, are based down south, we, literally gathered all the teams together and said, what do you think? And, I don't want to get into anyone's personal health or business, but what no one is talking about, because no one is saying, is that our industry, some of our race teams at this moment are dealing with these breakouts. There are people who are quarantined because, whatever reason, they were in Salt Lake City, came back, things open up, they got on with their lives, and boom, we start hearing about positive test. We called the specific teams, and they confirmed. And so, to start racing in Indiana, which is the one state and the one current national track that we could actually have a race on July 18th. But after that, every place else is up in the air. We know what's going on in Redbud with Michigan. You've been hearing what's going on with the governor of New York, which deals with Unadilla. We know that there's a big breakout in places are closing in Jacksonville, which is WW Ranch, let alone what's going on out in California, where they're getting back to stay-at-home rules. It's impossible, and it's not responsible for those teams to now get on planes or get, in their big rigs and drive to Indiana for what would effectively be one sure race. We thought we had two, but then obviously if you watch the news, and I don't care which news you watch, there are problems in Florida right now.
Yeah.
It is our hope that when we do start racing, and we really hope it's in mid-August, once this thing is tempered down a little and everyone gets a better grasp on what's happening, that we can run and get in a full series, which we have spoken with the teams, and we agreed that a minimum of 6 races needs to be run for there to be a 2020, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship. But honestly, right now, we're looking at one track that could do it. And whereas, a couple of people said, well, what about Pala? It's an Indian reservation. I know that. But right now, California is like the rest of California, not what's necessarily a reservation, is having a real concerning outbreak, and they are dealing with closing things back up. We're stuck in the middle of that. Everyone, saw what happened with Supercross. And I'm not talking about the Salt Lake City deal, which I thought was a wonderful concept and a real big, bold risk by Feld Entertainment, and they pulled it off. But they had to end a series that was in limbo, going back to the cancellation of Indianapolis in the middle of March. They wanted to finish their series. They had, no one wants to have the last 6 races canceled, especially when you have such good and compelling battles for the championship. So they made a decision to go to Salt Lake City with no fans, with lots of safety protocols, and literally race just for TV. And it works for them because they were just trying to find a good, safe way to end their series. We're trying to find a good, safe way to start our series. And we don't want to be like MXGP. They unfortunately got 2 races in, and they're still waiting to go. And MXGP has nothing to do with the politics of the United States of America. That is an entirely different thing. But they are dealing with all these different nations that have all these different rules and regulations as well. We're dealing with different states that have rules and regulations. But we're also dealing with our race teams, our race staff, their staffs, and there is real concern out there that no one wants to travel as this recent outbreak just hit. And we had a conference call yesterday. There were 23 different entities on the Zoom, and it was like a who's who of American motocross.
Yeah.
Not one team manager, not one OEM, not any of the privateer teams are on the call. None of them want to start racing until we have a better hold on what the rest of the series will look like and what's going on with health and the pandemic in America right now.
Yes.
And I want to go racing worse than anyone. We've got a magazine. We want races to cover. We want to sell tickets. We want the fans to enjoy our sport. But we don't want a bunch of people who are already dealing with the situation in California and Florida to come out of there and then go back to there because we don't have a second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth race to run. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do what's right for everyone, not just the teams, not just the fans, not just the racers, not just the promoters, not just NBC, who was like, is there anything that you can do? No, we our motto is not set up on racing without fans. We have a much different kind of series, a much different economy of scale when it comes to what a big company like Feld can do with Supercross. We're a series promoter that works with a bunch of smaller promoters. We're not the promoter of the Spring Creek National. We're not the promoter of the Washougal National. We're not the promoter of the Fox Raceway National. We do have 3 of the rounds, but they're not in states that are necessarily ready to open and have a gathering of even at 50% capacity. So we just thought the smart thing, and all of the teams agreed, was to postpone it for at least a month. That's it. That's where we are. There's no conspiracy. There's no hidden agenda. There's just, hey, we want to be able to finish what we start. So why don't we wait to start it when we know we can finish it? And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, because, okay, I would have thought it was obvious that a company that does something wants to do it more than anybody else does. The company puts on races, so nobody wants to put on races more than that company. I thought that part would be obvious. The other thing is, this is not just a personal, you guys watch the news and you have a personal take on coronavirus. Because obviously you hear plenty of people say like, dude, don't fear the fear. Don't fall for the hype. It's not really your decision. How you feel about coronavirus is almost incidental in this. It's not really your decision. It's the decision of governments and teams, really.
It is. First of all, if we're gonna have a race, we want everyone to be able to attend and want to attend safely. And I live in Morgantown, West Virginia, and we've closed our office. I've got a mother who is a cancer survivor and is not necessarily, but she's up there.
Yeah. Okay. She's got some numbers.
Yeah. So we're all working remotely, and when we do come to the office, I wear a mask to and from. Not in my car, but that's my personal responsibility that I feel that I have because of my mom. I was at a race in Ohio last week, wearing a mask, taking photos. That's my personal decision. But there were thousands of other people there. Some were wearing masks, some weren't. But they were spread out over a massive area, and people were, being responsible with their own health. It gets a little harder when you do that at a confined motocross track, and then it gets even harder when you consider how far the people at a pro motocross race travel, and asking them to get on airplanes and go to different parts of the country when a guy from California or an athlete from Florida can't even go to New York right now without having to quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah,
you can't go to Connecticut.
Yep.
Which is where we all stay and fly to when we go to Southwick. you can't go there if you're from California, Texas, or Florida. There's so many things at play other than just, oh, screw it, screw the virus. I'm just gonna not wear a mask and flip it off and whatever.
Or the other direction, you could have you or the company could have extreme, either we don't fear the virus or we do, but in the end it doesn't really matter what you think. The local government is going to make that decision for you, and that's always been the scary part about this. It's never fully been in any race promoter's hands, any of this. And that also includes Salt Lake City, right? If Utah doesn't make it easy on them, they're not going to hold a race. That's what makes this so scary. It's not all in your control anyway.
No, it's not. And remember this. The OEMs are big corporations. And like any other big corporation, they have a responsibility to the people that work for them. They do not want to put them in harm's way. We have been working on safety guidelines, protocols, everything, literally since the Indianapolis Supercross was canceled. And we have to make sure that we do things so that the truck driver for this factory team, so that the team manager for this team, so that the PR person for this team, they all need to, be able to go to work safely. And that's why in California, there is no one at Kawasaki today. They're all working from home. There is no one at Honda today. It's people don't understand that in places because they don't see that. And that's where the people who are our participants, that are many of our teams, that are many of the industry, they don't live and work in Morgantown, West Virginia. They're in places that are having a much different coronavirus experience than I'm having in my little state. But given, like I said, with my mom, I take it real seriously. It's not worth the risk to me.
Yeah, to you, but like I said, that doesn't really affect holding the Nationals or not. It's not your call. It's not. It's if the state of New York says we're not holding any outdoor events, it doesn't matter what you think about coronavirus. Unadilla can't hold a race.
I wonder if the NASCAR people are getting the same sort of I don't want to say rebelliousness or reception, but I mean, there are 25 players in the NBA that are in quarantine right now as they try to start their league up in a bubble in Orlando with no spectators or anything like that. But basketball is a much smaller game. It's a much smaller, platform, I should say. Obviously it's one of the biggest sports in the world, but they're having a real hard time. And the commissioner, Adam Silver, said, hey, if we have an outbreak, we're going to shut this down. Yeah. So no one, basketball's already been shut down. Everyone forgets that basketball had already started. Basketball was up and running. The real bellwether is football. What is the NFL doing? What is the NCAA doing? What is high school football doing? Right now, no one knows anything because they're all waiting to see what happens with this spike and where the virus is when they really got to get serious about it. And that's, early August. If we're going to have a football season, they're going to have to be, announcing dates. And right now, there's nothing like that. We have the dates that came out before the coronavirus, but no one can tell me when any of those football teams at any level are going to start practicing, because they're in the same boat motocross is. It depends on what their community, where the stadiums are, where the visiting teams are. They have to jump through the same hoops we do, and they also have to wait and see what's going on. So I don't know why this is, such a difficult thing to understand. But I mean, the whole country has been shut down for the most part since March, and they started to come out of it, and the virus reared its head, and everyone's on, hold on, let's wait a second. That's what we're doing, because we literally have no place else, no national tracks except Ironman, and we think we could do Florida, but that was 2 days ago. A lot's changed since then, and I mean, even the I don't even want to get into any of the other stuff. It's just that's what we're up against. It's been incredibly frustrating, but we're going to stick to our principles, and we're going to stick to what we and the teams agree is the best path of action.
Because this changed so much, like we keep thinking that we're going to have a handle on it. Like, okay, we can see what direction this is going. And I think what we've all learned is we're not really ever going to know anyway a month from now, 2 months from now, where this is going to go. In March, we thought we will know where we're at in April. We'll know where we're at in May. Clearly, we're never going to get it figured out. Does it get a little scary? Because I think you guys had said, we probably won't race past, say, October 3rd. But to have, let's say, 8 weekends or 6 weekends, to try to have round one and then have to say we know the next 2 months are clear, the next 2 months are good to go, is it almost like realizing it's almost impossible to predict 8 straight weeks of anything?
It is, but we do know that had we started on July 18th as originally planned, that we had no real good feeling that there would be anything other than a second round in Jacksonville, and then even that suddenly kind of got up in the air.
Right.
The mayor of Jacksonville on Monday, or I believe it was Monday, but it might have been over the weekend, passed an ordinance that you have to wear a mask through July 25th if you are outside. So that meant every spectator, if we were going to have a July 25th National in Jacksonville, was going to have to wear a mask the whole time or risk getting fined. That's impossible. I mean, at that point, it's like, okay, maybe we should wait and see how this looks, say, August 15th. And everyone agreed. And the people that were on the call seemed genuinely relieved. They've got their own issues to deal with. They've got their own fears, concerns, both personal and, business-wise. And, everyone loves motocross racing. At least everyone on that call does. And would like nothing more to be able to continue with the schedule as it was. But the 100% unanimous decision was, okay, let's postpone and let's see where we are in August. And I was ready to go to Indiana. I was going to be out there pounding steaks, mask or not, and getting that thing ready. But now we'll look at doing it later. And then anyone who's wondering about Loretta Lynn's, the difference with that is kind of like the GNCC races. Loretta Lynn's is not a big public spectator gathering where everyone gets together for one day, and it is more an outdoor recreational get together, sport, whatever. You're there with your family. We're going to practice social distancing. It's a massive platform where people can spread out, and we're not asking a bunch of professional athletes and corporate teams and whatnot to come and travel from one state to another state. We're just saying we're going to have this race like we always do at Loretta Lynn's. The qualifiers have been finished, and we're going to do everything we can to mitigate while we're there and send people home safely. It's a different duck than what a pro motocross national is on 12 Saturdays all across the country.
Yeah, what I've kind of heard from you guys in some previous interviews I did, even talking to Tim Cotter and Roy, that whether, again, you guys like it or not, the governments have a different view of a participant-based outdoor recreational event versus a professional sporting event, correct?
Yeah. You can go golfing, but you can't go to a professional golf match.
Yes. Exactly.
And Tennessee also is, a state that has been having, pretty open. But even that, Nashville has a different idea. Nashville is, 75 miles from Loretta Lynn's, which is out in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And not a lot there. But nonetheless, we'll do everything we can to safely, smartly, if that's the right word, efficiently, and have a race and give people a chance to compete for this year's national championship. We got real creative with the regionals. Somehow Tim Cotter and the promoters around the country were able to pull it off. And, then we have one more step. Pro Motocross hasn't started yet. There's at least 6 rounds that we would have to make it a championship. And that's what all these teams and riders race for. That's what they get paid for. That's what the OEMs want. That's what television wants. That's what the fans want. They want us to have a complete championship. And we feel that we have a better chance of having that if we begin a month later than we did when we thought about starting on July 18th. And remember, Jason, we were actually supposed to start May 16th.
Oh, I know. And then whatever, June 12th and June 21st. And
and as I said when I was doing the Moto X Pod show with Darkside and those guys, we're on Plan Q, and by now we might be on Plan S. We're doing all we can to make this happen, and we've been doing it. Like I said, since the day the Indianapolis Supercross was canceled.
Okay, so the 2 big points I'm taking out of this is you don't want to start and stop. The goal is to try to find a window where you can get weekends in pretty much consecutively, like a normal championship would feel. A. The teams have had some things happen internally to some of them, so they're a little gun shy right now. B. But finally, I just want to hit one more time. Obviously, you watched the races from Utah. I know some people are just going to say, why don't you just do that? And you did touch on this already a little bit. But the bottom line is you're saying the economic model of a stadium, Monster Energy Supercross, NBC, that relationship is just different. You can't just replicate, 6 races in 3 weeks in one place, no fans. It's not the same.
No, it's not. And if you could.
Yeah.
If you were going to go to that one place, it'd probably be in California. But guess what? The only place in California where you could do it right now would be an Indian reservation. And even with that, the teams don't want to do it that way. They don't want to go against the local, state, federal orders, and they vary everywhere. And so we are in a holding pattern. We have every intention of having this championship, but we have no intention of doing it in a way that really goes against what the rest of the country is suffering through and what they are going through and what they're trying to get rid of. We're not going to thumb our nose at what the health experts in all these markets are telling us. It's just not worth it.
But what I'm getting at here is that the economic model is a racetrack. It costs money for a racetrack to produce one of these events. And I'm talking literally from produce it. I mean, water the track, run the dozers. If you don't have fans, I think people assume the big TV check will come and the TV check will just pay for all that. That's not actually how this works.
And that is why our model is much different than Feld's. And again, they did what they had to do, and they did it well. Yep. And it was a really impressive thing. But remember, they were 11 races into a 17 or an 18 race season, however long it was.
Yeah, 17.
And they had to get it done that way, and they could get it done that way. We don't have that luxury. We haven't even started. We wouldn't be able to pay purse money if we didn't have anyone come through the gate.
Yeah, there you go.
And so to ask privateers or anyone, to come to a place where we don't know if there's even going to be a second race, it's just not good for anyone, including and especially the fans. They want to see a complete championship. They want to see racing. We all want to see racing, but we don't want to just see a one-off. Let's call this the national championship and let's do it someplace where no one's at. It costs so much money to build out a national track to wire it, cable it for television. And that's the other thing. When you go to a stadium, you plug into the spots that are sitting there. When you go to a motocross track, you got to lay 2 miles of television cable, bring in the TV trucks, everything. It just doesn't work in our type of racing as compared to going into a downtown modern stadium where everything is already there. You just plug in. The cost there is building the track, and that's a sizable cost for Feld.
Yeah.
But they did it. They built one track, and then they kept changing it and really mixed it up enough to where we saw a bunch of really compelling racing. Well, we're not the same kind of program. We don't have the same kind of platform. So
yeah.
And again, I will, the one other thing, people are still getting sick. It's really happening. And that's also a concern. When you have that responsibility on your shoulders and you have the people saying, hey, we don't know if we want to be there. I take that into consideration. We all do. This is just the weirdest year in the history of weird years. and I never thought that on July 2nd, I wouldn't be at Redbud yelling at people that I've been hanging out and partying with and enjoying the races with for 30 years. It's none of this was in anyone's mind's eye back in February, but it's the world we live in right now, and it's a really strange time, and the future, no one's crystal ball is working now.
No.
We just gotta hope and try to do the right things and be responsible citizens.
All right. Hey, I knew there were reasons. Now I'm glad we got the reasons out there. It wasn't just we watched the news so much we got scared and decided we couldn't hold races. It was much more technical than that. Yeah.
That's not the case. And I will say, just in closing, Jason, I don't understand why or how any of this got political, but it has nothing to do with motocross racing. I'll steal a line from James Stewart. He used to say, we all look the same with our helmets on, and I feel like that with our sport, but this is happening in Europe. This is happening in Asia. This is happening in South America. It's happening everywhere. At the end of the day, people just want it to go away. I get that.
Yeah.
But we also want to be here when it goes away.
Right.
And
Right.
So to me, it's a we're all in this together. So let's find a way to be there when it's over.
Yeah, the politicalization of everything in the United States has pretty much reached the top of my list of frustration, and that's even with coronavirus being around. I think the fact that it got politicized is making me more angry than the thing itself. Like, bro, we're gonna eat each other alive from the inside if we can't agree on anything. That's a different topic for a different day. But oh my God, is that frustrating? We can't agree on anything. That makes it hard to fix anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that as this thing is going on, you're not getting paid. You work for NBC in the summer. And,
it's a crusher. I cannot explain enough how all of us all want to do this so badly. The riders, the teams, you, me. Look, I've been completely honest. I'm saying it for completely selfish reasons. I want these races to happen so I can get paid. I'm not aiding and abetting the conspiracy theory of not having races. I want them too. So do you. We want it.
And yet at the same time, as the father of a couple young children,
yes,
I know you don't want to come home from a race in a place that is really not smart to go to.
Yeah.
And put them at risk, even though they're very strong and not as susceptible as other people, but there's just so many things to consider.
Yes, it's very complex.
And yet people go to the low bar and say, oh, well, it's because of this. No, It's because of all these things.
Yes, it's just so complicated, man. It's just so complicated, and nothing sounds better. I always say it's because you want to, if you want to go to sleep tonight and say, I don't have an unsolvable problem on my hands, it's so easy. Just do X, and it'll all be solved. That's cool if that makes your conscience feel better, but unfortunately, there's nothing. Okay, I was at my buddy's shop the other day who does suspension. To make forks work, you have to choose too soft or too stiff, right? There's a compromise to everything on earth. To think that a topic this complex would have the simplest solutions ever is moronic. Of course this is difficult to figure out. Think of how difficult the thing is. Gosh. Yeah. That's my rant.
Well, I will say, I heard I heard from Eric Pernard, who's the promoter, one of the promoters of the Bercy Supercross. And, he does a lot of events, and, he's, just a longtime friend, really, really smart motorcycle entrepreneur and promoter. And I said, we were talking about the destinations. And I said, this is kind of like 9/11 back in 2001, where we were all gung-ho, ready to go. And then that happens. And suddenly the last thing on our minds was going to race at the Motocross of Nations. And he said, yeah, Davey, but you know what? This is different because 9/11 was like a heart attack. What's happening this year is a cancer. It's long and it's slow and it's not going away yet. And I was with Eric back at Daytona when we were talking about this. How do you think this is going to work out?
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, we saw in about 5 days.
Yeah.
But to his point, that this is such a big, complex thing, and it's going to take some really smart scientists and doctors and health experts to get us through it all, and it's caused a lot of people to do different things and try different things and put down different things and have to pass on different things. And right now, this postponement of pro motocross, it's in the whole big scheme of things, it's kind of a small thing. But we're so passionate about motocross. I get it, but we also have to be like realist. We also have to really look at the big picture and think, you know what? This might not be a good time. This might not have a third round. This might not have, I can't ask everyone to go to Indiana because I know we can have one race there for sure.
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying, because look, if something were to go bad, Utah was lucky, nothing really bad happened. But can you imagine what people on the outside would be like? These idiots decided to hold a dumb dirt bike race? Did you really have to hold a dirt bike race, you morons? You know what I mean? Like, you've got to be somewhat respectful to the world around you, because we all think it's awesome, and we all think, it's racing number one all the time. But we're all part of a much bigger world, and I don't think most people would see it that way if there were a problem. So we got to be responsible, unfortunately. We can't be racing all the time. Damn the consequences. Yep.
Yeah, well, it just means we have anher issue where we're going to have to cover stories that non-racing.
Old stuff.
But hey, it's better than not having a sport at all.
This is bad. You've got me now pining for 19 years ago, 2001, when at least the United States could pretty much agree on things. That's really bothering me now. We can agree on, like, not doing stuff because September 11th was crazy and we weren't sure where we were at. At least everyone agreed that was a good take for a couple of months. Now you've got me wishing for those halcyon days where we can at least see eye to eye on stuff. Yeah. Makes it really hard to get work done now. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope you and your family are staying well down there in the Carolinas, and I'll end on one other note. I've got an 18-year-old, Vance.
Yep.
He graduated high school. He didn't have a normal year, obviously. No high school senior in America did.
Yeah, that's bad timing.
But he's resilient. And we found a way to have a social distancing graduation ceremony so they could they could, do the walk and get their diplomas. And of course, a monsoon hits in the middle of it, and those kids all just sat there, and they are resilient. They have put up with so much because they don't realize what they're missing. They haven't had to, come to terms with the fact that, hey, this is something I do every year and I don't get to do it. No, this is something you get to do once.
Yeah.
And they didn't get to do it. They didn't get to have a prom. They didn't get to have a senior trip. They didn't get to have a normal graduation. But yet we all went to work, me and other parents in the school and everyone. And this is, I'm sure, all around the country. People try to do what they can to give them a little bit, to give them just enough of some normalcy to know that all those years of school, you do get a reward at the end. There is a graduation. It is a big part of your life. And motocross will be here next year. We'll get to do it. It'll be here next month. But right now, on July 18th and July 25th, the only two races we had scheduled, we were not comfortable asking people to do, and when I mean people, I mean the pro motocross fraternity. We were not comfortable asking them to buck their local laws and health ordinances and things that people were telling them to do and warning them about, and come out for these two races, one of which was ours. We are the promoter of Ironman.
Yeah.
We I would love to have that race, but it's not the time to do it. And just like those kids that didn't get to have graduation, they understand. They get it. They're bummed, but they understand. We're all in this together. As motocross fans, I hope people can understand this isn't just a Lucas Oil Pro Motocross thing. It wasn't just a Supercross thing. There is no MotoGP. There is no MXGP. There is no Superbike racing. We're all on hold because the world is kind of on hold. And so this isn't personal. This isn't individualized. This isn't selective. We literally are all under this giant cloud of COVID-19. And we got to be smart with what we do with our time, with our travel, with the things we've built up, whether it's a pro motocross series or a family in North Carolina. It to me, it's not rocket science, but it is some kind of science. It's the science of sociology and community and responsibility. And I just think that needs to be everyone's real bottom line. What is going to get us through this?
Yeah. I'd love for you to ram it through and start collecting NBC paychecks in 2 weeks, but that's, like you said, I'm sure Vance would have loved to have had a normal graduation also. So deal with it, everybody. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you. And I will see you at the races. Just not July 18th.
Yeah. Well, I might as well go to GNTC next weekend. Why not?
Right,
what else I got to do?
I'll be there too.
Okay. All right, man. All right. Good talking to you.
Take care.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, that's the show. That's the explanation. Maybe you learned something. I find it crazy if anyone thinks that there weren't real reasons for this. And to me, it starts with state governments being very unpredictable to understand where they might be week in and week out, especially when you're trying to go out multiple states to create a championship like this. The economic model that Supercross has that allowed them to run a bunch of races without fans in one stadium does not apply to motocross. And I go all the way back to a podcast I did at the very beginning of this with Jared Mees, who is multi-time champ in flat track, but also promotes one of the events in the championship, that is the Lima Half Mile. And he was the first one that was on the record giving me the bad news, saying, I cannot run a race without fans. The only revenue I have for the event to run at all is fans coming in. That's the only way I can pay for anything. Well, just during this podcast with Davey, I get a press release from American Flat Track that the Lima Half Mile is postponed. So it is true that if you're the NFL, you have a big, giant TV contract. So the ideal model is to have fan and TV revenue, but TV revenue alone is a lot. And Supercross, to a smaller scale, that and the sponsorships that they have, I don't think they were making money in Utah, but there was at least something to try to make the events work. It doesn't work that way for some of these smaller racing series. So that's a big difference. And then the final thing is the teams and the riders, they had to weigh in as well. There are some internal conflicts now about going out on the road that luckily we didn't happen to have a couple of months ago, but it was maybe inevitable that this is a bridge that was going to have to be crossed. So there are 3 reasons I was able to take out of this. Again, I want to go racing badly because it's fun and it's awesome and it's what we love. And I'm bored, and it's also what I do for a living. So I get you, folks. But at the same time, there's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is, and it's not anyone in the racing industry that caused this, that can frame this, that can change this. It's just a bummer, and at this point, I'm not even looking for a darn vaccine. I'm just looking for a time machine. Anyone got Doc Brown's number? Let's get the flux capacitor fired up, go to 88 miles an hour, and see where we're at when this inevitably will be behind us at some point. But my gosh, does it feel like it's gone on forever? I mean, February 2020 might as well have been February 1820. It's the way it feels. All right, that's our show. Thanks to Yoshimura. Go to yoshimura-rd.com for more on their exhaust systems for your machine. Whatever type of machine you have, it's a 4-stroke. They've got a cool exhaust system for it. Thanks for their support, and thanks for you to keep listening, and we'll try to keep interesting news coming your way even without races again for a while. Luckily, we've got some practice at this. Thanks for listening.